Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
Preview. My wife rolled her eyes. You're being controlling. I need space. So I gave her space and gave screenshots to HR and his wife. The aftermath? Quiet. Very, very quiet. I used to be her safe place. Now I'm just her placeholder. That thought hit me at 3 in the morning as I stared at the ceiling, listening to Olivia stumble through our front door. Again. The sound of her heels clicking against our hardwood floors echoed through the house like gunshots in the silence. "Nick," she called out, her voice slurred and thick with alcohol. "You awake?" I didn't answer. I'd learned that engaging with drunk Olivia only led to arguments that she'd conveniently forget by morning. Instead, I lay there in our king-sized bed, the one we'd picked out together 3 years ago when we still laughed at each other's jokes, and listened to her crash around the kitchen. The digital clock on my nightstand glowed 3:17 a.m. Another work event that had run impossibly late. Another night of her rolling her eyes when I'd asked simple questions like, "Who's going?" and "When will you be home?" Another dismissive wave of her manicured hand as she'd grabbed her purse and headed out the door. "You're being controlling, Nick," she'd said, pausing at the threshold to deliver that familiar eye roll. "I need space to unwind after work. These events are important for my career." Space. That word had become her favorite weapon lately. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A notification from our shared iPad downstairs, the one we'd bought for recipes and Netflix, back when we still cooked together. The cloud sync was still active, which meant her text messages appeared on both devices. Usually I ignored them. Tonight something made me reach for my phone. The message was from someone listed as D in her contacts. "Amazing night. You looked incredible in that dress. Can't wait for our next work trip." My stomach dropped like I'd been punched. I sat up in bed, fully awake now, and scrolled through more messages. They went back weeks. "Meeting you in the parking garage after the presentation. Tell Nick you're working late again. I booked us a room. Your husband seems like the jealous type. We should be more careful." I read every single message, my hands shaking with a mixture of rage and disbelief. Explicit photos, detailed plans for their next encounter, jokes about how clueless I was. The worst part? She'd been sloppy about it, careless. Like she didn't even care if I found out. Olivia finally made it upstairs, bumping into the door frame as she entered our bedroom. She was still wearing that black cocktail dress, the one I'd complimented her on before she left. Her makeup was smudged, her hair disheveled. "How was the work event?" I asked quietly, setting my phone face down on the nightstand. She kicked off her heels and started unzipping her dress. "Fine. Boring presentations, cheap wine, you know how it is." "Who was there?" At that eye roll again. "The usual people. Paige from HR, some of the project managers, Damien from operations." She said his name without any change in tone, like she hadn't been sexting him for weeks. "Damien," I repeated. "That's your boss, right?" "He's the VP of operations, yes." She pulled the dress over her head and tossed it toward the hamper. It missed and crumpled on the floor. "Why are you interrogating me, Nick? I'm tired. Just curious about your work friends." She turned to face me, standing there in her black lace underwear. Underwear I'd never seen before. "They're not my friends, they're my colleagues. And before you start with your paranoid theories, yes, we talk. Yes, we network. That's how careers work in the real world." I never said anything about paranoid theories. You didn't have to. I can see it in your face. She walked to her dresser and grabbed a t-shirt. "You get this look, like you're calculating something. It's honestly exhausting, Nick." I wanted to throw the phone at her. I wanted to scream about the messages about D and his emoji-filled promises. Instead, I just watched her get ready for bed, like nothing had happened. "I'm going to brush my teeth," she announced, heading toward our ensuite bathroom. The moment she closed the door, I grabbed my phone and started screenshotting everything. Every message, every photo, every casual reference to their affair. My military training had taught me the importance of documentation, and right now I was building a case. When Olivia emerged from the bathroom, I was lying on my side, pretending to be asleep. She slipped into bed beside me, and for a moment, I caught a whiff of unfamiliar cologne mixed with her usual perfume. Night, babe, she whispered, settling under the covers. I didn't respond. I was too busy planning my next move. The thing about being underestimated is that it gives you a certain advantage. People assume you're not paying attention, that you're not capable of connecting the dots. Olivia had always seen me as her stable, predictable husband, the guy who fixed the Wi-Fi and remembered to pay the bills on time. She never suspected that the same analytical mind that made me good at IT consulting might also make me very, very good at uncovering lies. By morning, I had a plan. Olivia left for work the next morning with a travel mug of coffee and a kiss on my cheek, like she was the perfect wife heading off to her important job. She'd changed into a navy blue blazer and pencil skirt, professional but fitted in all the right places. I might be late again tonight, she said, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. We're working on the Morrison project presentation. Another late night? It's a big client, Nick. This could mean a promotion for me. She turned to face me, and I saw something flicker across her expression. Guilt? Annoyance? I know you don't understand the corporate world, but sometimes sacrifices have to be made. The condescension in her voice was new, or maybe I was just finally hearing it clearly. I understand more than you think, I said. She gave me a quick smile and headed for the door. Love you. Try not to wait up. After her car disappeared down our street, I called my best friend Sam. Nick, it's barely 8 a.m. Please tell me someone's not dead. I need a favor, I said, walking to my home office and firing up my computer. And maybe some moral support. Uh-oh. What did Olivia do now? Sam had never been Olivia's biggest fan. He'd never said anything directly, but I'd caught his disapproving looks when she'd make little comments about my job or my hobbies. He was a mechanic who owned his own shop, and Olivia had never bothered to hide the fact that she thought he was beneath her social circle. She's cheating on me. Silence on the other end of the line. Sam, I'm here. Are you sure? I told him about the messages about the late nights and the eye rolls, about the way she'd started treating me like an inconvenience instead of a partner. What do you want to do? He asked when I finished. I want to see it for myself. Tonight. She's going to another work event. You want to follow her? I want proof that can't be explained away or deleted. Sam was quiet for a moment. Okay, but we do this smart, right? No confrontations, no dramatic scenes, just documentation. Just documentation, I agreed. That afternoon, I did some research on Damian Reed, VP of Operations at Meridian Solutions, Olivia's company. Married to Ellen Reed, who turned out to be the daughter of the company's founder. Interesting. Damian had married into his position, which meant he had a lot to lose if his affair came to light. I also discovered that Ellen Reed wasn't just a trophy wife. She had an MBA from Wharton and sat on the company's board of directors. In fact, according to the corporate filings I found online, she owned a controlling interest in Meridian Solutions. Damian wasn't just cheating on his wife. He was cheating on his boss. This information felt like a loaded weapon. At 6 p.m., Olivia texted me, heading to the Skyline Lounge for the team event. Don't wait up. The Skyline Lounge was a trendy rooftop bar downtown, the kind of place that charged $20 for a cocktail and had a dress code. I'd been there once for Olivia's birthday last year. She'd spent the entire evening networking instead of celebrating with me. I dressed in dark clothes and drove downtown, parking 3 blocks away from the Skyline Lounge. Sam met me at a coffee shop across the street. You sure about this? He asked, sliding into the booth across from me. I need to know. And then what? You confront her? File for divorce? I haven't figured that part out yet. Sam studied my face. Nick, I've known you for 15 years. You've always been the guy who thinks 3 steps ahead. You've already figured it out. He was right, but I wasn't ready to admit it yet. We waited until 8:30, then walked to the building that housed the Skyline Lounge. The elevator to the rooftop required a key card, but the stairwell door was propped open by a catering company making deliveries. We slipped inside and climbed to the 23rd floor. The rooftop was packed with well-dressed professionals holding drinks and making small talk against the backdrop of the city skyline. I spotted Olivia immediately. She was standing near the bar in a red dress I'd never seen before, laughing at something a tall, silver-haired man was saying. Damian Reed. He looked exactly like his corporate headshot, but with loosened tie and the kind of confident smile that came from never being told no. I pulled out my phone and started recording. There, I whispered to Sam, nodding toward Olivia and Damien. Red dress, silver fox. Jesus, Nick. She's practically sitting in his lap. He was right. As I watched, Olivia leaned closer to Damien, her hand resting on his forearm as she whispered something in his ear. He laughed and placed his hand on the small of her back, letting it linger there. This is painful to watch, Sam muttered. I kept recording. Over the next hour, I documented Olivia and Damien's increasingly intimate behavior. The way she touched his chest when she laughed, the way he whispered in her ear, making her blush, the way they stood closer together than any married woman should stand with her boss. At 10 p.m., they left together. Follow them? Sam asked. I nodded. We took the stairs down to the parking garage, staying far enough behind to avoid being seen. Olivia and Damien walked to a silver BMW, his car, according to the license plate I'd already looked up online. They didn't get in the car immediately. Instead, Damien pressed Olivia against the driver's side door and kissed her. Not a friendly peck or a drunken mistake. A deep, passionate kiss that lasted long enough for me to get it on video. Got it, I whispered, my hands shaking as I held the phone steady. When they finally broke apart, Olivia looked around nervously as if she suddenly remembered they were in a public place. Damien said something that made her laugh, and they got into his car. I followed them to a luxury apartment complex on the other side of town. They parked in the underground garage and took the elevator up together. I waited in my car for 2 hours, but Olivia never came back down. She's staying the night, I told Sam as we drove home. I'm sorry, man, I really am. Don't be sorry. Be ready to help me burn their world down. Sam glanced at me sideways. What are you planning? I'm planning to give my wife exactly what she asked for. Space. Lots and lots of space. When I got home, I uploaded all the photos and videos to a secure cloud storage account. Then, I started researching Ellen Reed's contact information. If Damien wanted to play games with other people's marriages, it was time he learned that actions have consequences. I fell asleep that night with my laptop open, drafting an email that would change everything. The subject line read, regarding your husband's extracurricular activities. Olivia came home the next morning while I was making coffee, slipping in through the front door like she'd just stepped out to get the newspaper. Morning, she said brightly, hanging her purse on the hook by the door. You're up early. I never went to bed. She paused. Work keeping you busy? Something like that. She walked into the kitchen and poured herself a cup of coffee, acting like she hadn't spent the night in another man's bed. How was your evening? Quiet. Very, very quiet. She nodded absently, scrolling through her phone. I should shower and get ready for work. Big day today. I bet it is. After she went upstairs, I finished my email to Ellen Reed and hit send. Ellen Reed responded to my email within 2 hours. Mr. Carter, I would like to meet with you this afternoon to discuss the information you've shared. Are you available at 2 p.m.? I can meet you at the Starbucks on 5th Street. Or if you prefer somewhere more private, I have an office downtown. I chose the office. Ellen Reed was nothing like I'd expected. Based on her corporate photos, I'd imagined someone cold and severe. In person, she was elegant and composed, with sharp intelligence behind her green eyes. She was probably in her early 40s, with auburn hair pulled back in a sleek bun and a handshake that could crack walnuts. Thank you for coming forward with this information, she said, gesturing for me to sit across from her mahogany desk. I assume this wasn't an easy decision. It wasn't, I admitted. But I thought you deserved to know. She opened a folder on her desk and spread out printed copies of the photos and screenshots I'd sent her. How long has this been going on? Based on the text messages, at least 6 weeks, maybe longer. Ellen studied the images with the detached professionalism of someone reviewing quarterly reports. If she was hurt or angry, she didn't show it. Your wife works in our project management department, correct? Yes, she's always spoken highly of the company. And of my husband, apparently. Ellen closed the folder and leaned back in her chair. Mr. Carter, I'm going to be direct with you. This isn't the first time Damien has had an inappropriate relationship with an employee. It is, however, going to be the last. What do you mean? I mean that Meridian Solutions has a very strict policy regarding workplace harassment and adultery. Damien has violated both his employment contract and his marriage vows. As of today, he's terminated. I stared at her. Just like that? Just like that. Ellen opened her laptop and began typing. I'm also terminating your wife's employment. We can't have employees who engage in this type of behavior. Wait, I said.
A couple's spa. You took her to the place we go. It was a birthday gift. She's a friend.
Friends don't get $500 couples massage. Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Though I wasn't sure why I was protesting. Doesn't she deserve some kind of hearing or, Mr. Carter, your wife pursued a sexual relationship with her married supervisor. She sent explicit messages using company equipment. She attended company events for the purpose of conducting an affair. There's no ambiguity here. Ellen finished typing and closed her laptop. However, I do have a proposition for you. What kind of proposition? Damien's position is now vacant. VP of Operations, 6-figure salary, excellent benefits. Your background is in IT consulting, which means you understand both technology and project management. You're also clearly intelligent and observant. She smiled for the first time since I'd arrived. I could use someone like you. I felt like I was in free fall. You're offering me my wife's boss's job? I'm offering you a position with my company. What you do with your marriage is entirely up to you. I thought about Olivia, probably sitting in her office right now, texting Damien about their next rendezvous. I thought about all the eye rolls and condescending comments about my career. I thought about the way she'd made me feel like I was holding her back from something better. When do I start? Ellen's smile widened. How about Monday? We shook hands, and she walked me to the elevator. Mr. Carter, I hope you understand that this arrangement is based purely on your qualifications and our company's needs. This isn't about revenge. Of course not, I said, though we both knew that was only partially true. Good, I'll have HR prepare your paperwork. Oh, and Mr. Carter, I'd appreciate it if you didn't mention our conversation to your wife just yet. I'd prefer to handle her termination through proper channels. The elevator doors closed, and I found myself alone with the knowledge that I'd just blown up my wife's entire career. And somehow I felt lighter than I had in months. My phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Working late again tonight, don't wait up. I texted back, take all the time you need. At 4:30 that afternoon, I was sitting in my car across the street from Meridian Solutions when Olivia came storming out of the building, carrying a cardboard box and looking like she'd been hit by a truck. Her face was red and blotchy, and even from a distance, I could see that she'd been crying. Damien emerged a few minutes later, also carrying a box, looking equally shell-shocked. They met at his car and had what appeared to be a heated conversation. Olivia was gesticulating wildly, and Damien kept looking around nervously like he expected Ellen to appear with security guards. I took photos of the entire exchange. Olivia came home an hour later, slamming the front door so hard that the pictures on the hallway wall rattled. Nick, she screamed, where are you? I was in the kitchen, calmly making dinner. Right here. How was work? She appeared in the doorway, still clutching her cardboard box, her makeup completely destroyed. How was work? How was work? I got fired, Nick. They fired me. What? Why? They said I violated company policy. Something about inappropriate workplace relationships. She set the box down on the kitchen counter with a thud. It's completely ridiculous. I never did anything inappropriate. I turned away from the stove to face her. That's terrible. I'm so sorry. They fired Damien too, and Paige from HR got suspended for not reporting it. Olivia wiped her nose with the back of her hand. Someone sent them photos, Nick. Photos of me and Damien at company events. Photos of you doing what? Nothing. talking, networking, being friendly, but they made it look like something it wasn't. I nodded sympathetically. That sounds awful. Do you have any idea who might have sent them? No, but when I find out, I'm going to sue them for everything they're worth. This is defamation, Nick. Character assassination. Of course it is, I agreed. You should definitely look into legal action. Olivia started pacing around the kitchen, working herself into a frenzy. I gave that company 3 years of my life. 3 years? And this is how they repay me? By believing lies and rumors? What did Damien say about it? She stopped pacing. What do you mean? Well, he got fired too. What's his take on the situation? We didn't really have time to discuss it. Everything happened so fast. Right, well, maybe you two can figure out your next steps together. Since you're both in the same situation. Olivia stared at me for a long moment. Why are you being so calm about this? What do you want me to do? Scream and throw things? That won't get your job back. You could be supportive. You could be angry on my behalf. I am supportive, and I am angry that someone would try to hurt you like this. She seemed to deflate slightly. I can't believe this is happening. It'll be okay, I said, turning back to the stove. We'll figure it out. What I didn't tell her was that I'd already figured it out. Everything was going exactly according to plan. That night, Olivia spent hours on the phone with Paige, rehashing the day's events and trying to figure out who could have sent the photos. I listened from the next room as they built conspiracy theories about jealous coworkers and corporate politics. It had to be someone with access to company events, Paige was saying. Someone who was watching you. But who? And why target me specifically? Maybe it wasn't about you. Maybe someone was trying to get Damien fired and you were just collateral damage. I almost laughed out loud. They were so close to the truth, yet completely missing it. My phone buzzed with a text from Ellen Reed. First day orientation is at 9 a.m. Monday. Welcome to the team. I texted back, looking forward to it. Olivia was still on the phone when I went to bed, her voice carrying down the hallway as she plotted her comeback. She had no idea that her husband was about to become her former boss's replacement, or that the jealous coworker she was looking for was sleeping right next to her. I fell asleep, smiling. Monday morning, I put on my best suit and drove to Meridian Solutions for my first day as VP of Operations. Olivia was still in bed, claiming she was too depressed to get up. She'd spent the weekend sending out resumes and calling everyone she knew in the industry, trying to find a new position. Good luck with the job hunt, I'd told her, kissing her forehead before I left. I'm sure something will turn up. Ellen Reed met me in the lobby at 9 a.m. sharp, looking every inch the powerful executive in a charcoal gray suit and heels that clicked authoritatively against the marble floor. Ready for the grand tour? She asked. Absolutely. She led me through the office, introducing me to department heads and key personnel. The reactions were mixed. Some people seemed genuinely excited to meet the new VP, while others looked confused or suspicious. Word had clearly gotten around about Damien's sudden departure. This is your office, Islin said, opening the door to a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city. Damien's personal items have been removed, but feel free to redecorate however you like. The office was impressive. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, built-in bookshelves. There was even a small conference table for private meetings. It was easily 3 times the size of my home office. The executive assistant pool is just outside, Ellen continued. Haley Morrison has been supporting the operations department for 2 years. She's very capable. Haley turned out to be a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s who seemed to know where every body was buried in the company. She briefed me on Damien's ongoing projects, his meeting schedule, and the various personnel issues I'd be inheriting. Mr. Reed was very hands-on with certain employees, she said diplomatically. You may find that some people are nervous about the transition. What kind of hands-on? He had favorites, people he mentored closely, particularly attractive female employees who were ambitious and willing to work late. I see. And how did that work out for everyone involved? Haley's smile was razor-sharp. About as well as you'd expect. By lunchtime, I had a clear picture of what Damien had been doing at Meridian Solutions. He'd been using his position to pursue inappropriate relationships with multiple employees, not just Olivia. The difference was that Olivia had been stupid enough to leave a digital trail. There's something else you should know, Haley said as she walked me through the afternoon schedule. Paige Williams from HR has been spreading rumors about your appointment. What kind of rumors? She's telling people that you got this job because your wife was having an affair with Mr. Reed. She's suggesting that Mrs. Reed hired you out of spite. And what do you think? I think Paige Williams is lucky she still has a job after failing to report a clear case of workplace harassment. I also think she should be more careful about making accusations she can't prove. I was starting to really like Haley. At 3 p.m., Ellen knocked on my office door. How's your first day going? Very educational. I'm getting a clear picture of how things operated under the previous management. Good. I wanted to let you know that we're having a company-wide meeting on Friday to introduce you to the entire staff. It'll be a chance for you to set the tone for your leadership. Sounds perfect. Ellen closed the door and took a seat across from my desk. I also wanted to discuss your wife's situation. What about it? She's been calling our HR department, demanding to speak with me about her termination. She's also threatened to file a wrongful termination lawsuit. I leaned back in my chair. What do you want me to do about it? Nothing. I just thought you should be aware. If she does file suit, there could be some awkward questions about the timing of your hire. Are you concerned about that? Ellen smiled. Mr. Carter, I've been running this company for longer than most people realize. My husband was a figurehead with a fancy title and no real authority. You, on the other hand, actually have the qualifications for this position. If anyone wants to challenge that, they're welcome to review your resume and interview notes. Interview notes? The extensive interview process we conducted last month, during which you impressed multiple department heads with your knowledge and experience. Ellen's smile widened. Funny how paperwork can sometimes be backdated when necessary? I stared at her. You're very thorough. I didn't build this company by being careless. That evening, I came home to find Olivia pacing around the living room, her phone pressed to her ear. No, I understand that. But this is clearly a case of wrongful termination, she was saying. Someone needs to be held accountable. She hung up and turned to me. That was the third employment lawyer I've called today. They all say the same thing. It's hard to prove wrongful termination when there's photographic evidence of inappropriate behavior. Maybe you should focus on finding a new job instead of fighting the old one. I can't just let this go, Nick. They destroyed my reputation. They made it look like I was having an affair with Damien. Were you? The question hung in the air between us like a live wire. Olivia's face went through several expressions: surprise, indignation, fear, and finally, defiance. How can you even ask me that? Because you haven't actually denied it. Of course I'm denying it. Damien and I were colleagues. We worked together on projects. We attended the same company events. That doesn't mean we were having an affair. What about the text messages? Olivia went very still. What text messages? The ones that showed up on our iPad. The ones from Dee talking about your dress and your next work trip. I watched the color drain from her face as she realized her mistake. The cloud sync. She'd forgotten about the cloud sync. Nick, I can explain. Can you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been lying to me for months. Olivia sank down onto the couch, her hands shaking. It wasn't supposed to happen. It started as harmless flirting, office banter. But then Damien started paying attention to me, and he made me feel important, valued. And I didn't? You made me feel safe, comfortable. But Damien made me feel exciting. The honesty was like a slap in the face. So, you decided to have an affair. It wasn't an affair. We only kissed a few times. And we talked about maybe taking things further, but we never actually did anything serious. You spent the night at his apartment last week. Olivia's eyes widened. How did you? I followed you. You followed me? I followed you, I took pictures, and I sent them to Ellen Reed. The silence that followed was deafening. Olivia stared at me like she'd never seen me before. You, she whispered. You got me fired? You got yourself fired. I just provided the documentation. Olivia launched herself off the couch, screaming. You bastard! You destroyed my career. You ruined my life. I gave you exactly what you asked for. Space. This isn't space. This is sabotage. No, this is consequences. You wanted to play games, so I changed the rules. Olivia was crying now, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. How could you do this to me? I'm your wife. You were my wife? Now you're just someone who lives in my house and lies to my face. She looked around the living room like she was seeing it for the first time. What happens now? Now you figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life. Somewhere else. You're kicking me out? I'm giving you a choice. You can leave voluntarily, or you can stay and watch me rebuild the life you tried to destroy. Either way, we're done. Olivia wiped her nose with the back of her hand. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know. Maybe Damien has some ideas. Damien won't even return my calls. His wife froze all his accounts and filed for divorce. He's staying in some motel on the other side of town. Sounds like he's got plenty of space, too. Olivia stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the exact moment she realized that the man she'd married, the safe, predictable, controllable husband, was gone forever. I need time to pack, she said quietly. Take all the time you need. I'll be at work. The next morning, I drove to my corner office at Meridian Solutions, where my assistant had already prepared my coffee and organized my schedule. At lunch, I had a meeting with Ellen Reed to discuss the company's strategic direction. At 3 p.m., I interviewed candidates for a new project manager position, and for the first time in months, when I came home that evening, the house was quiet. Very, very quiet.